Brian Lehrer on WNYC. And one of the things we're doing here during the spring membership drive is revisiting some of the short segments that we often do at the end of the show that we've decided could use some more time. We'll kick this off now with a return visit from Jodi Kantor. Her day job is investigative reporter for the New York Times. She uncovered those secret Supreme Court memos about their so-called shadow docket, consequential rulings they make without much explanation or without really being asked to in some cases. But her new book was more the focus of that short segment, and just in time for graduation season, the book is called How to Start Discovering Your Life's Work. So, Jodi, thanks for a follow-up segment with us today. Welcome back to WNYC.
It's great to be with you, and let's go WNYC.
Thank you. And listeners, if anyone has a question relevant to how to start discovering your life's work, feel free at 212-433-WNYC. Call or text 212-433-9692. You know, one thing I didn't get to the first time around was simply to ask about the word discovering in your title. You could have said choosing your life's work or deciding on your life's work, but you used the word discovering. Why discovering your life's work in the subtitle of the book?
Because the question of this book is, what should young people actually do in this environment? We all know the obstacles. We've all seen the negative news, the fear about AI and entry-level work, but they still need to start their life's work. And I want to encourage them to fight for their hopes and dreams. And I think the process of finding your life's work is a process of discovery. I mean, Brian, I'm very curious to know what you thought you were going to do when you were graduating from college. But for most of us, it's not the thing we thought we were going to do. It involves some struggle, and it can be tempting now to try to avoid struggle because it's a chaotic, scary environment. But struggle is how we discover ourselves. Before we get to listeners, I'm curious, what did if we look at 22-year-old Brian Lehrer, what did he want to do?
Well, I actually did want to work in radio, and I had an interest in both news and music programming. But I guess my little act of discovery was that I was hosting a rock music show when I was 22 years old and discovered, I'm really more interested in the news side. So I went back to grad school to get a journalism degree. So you could call that a point of discovery.
Absolutely. And it's also very hard, I think, to figure out your life's work if you're sitting in a university library. Very few of us have figured out what we want to do through introspection. It can just feel like torture, like you're marinating in anxiety. Careers are made from stimulation. And look at how meaningful it was for you to work on that rock show and say, no, actually, I'm more interested in the news side of things. You needed to be in that situation and react, and then you could go back to school.
You know, what I mostly want to do in this follow-up with our available time is just go down the list of items you have in Chapter 1 of the book, which shares the book title, How to Start. And you just said the first one, which is don't just sit in the library to make a decision. You also wrote, don't let your parents decide your career and look to your friends instead. Look to your friends for what?
Well, so the parent thing is huge right now because the level of anxiety about entry-level work is so hard that a lot of parents, and listen, I'm this parenting generation, I cop to it. We have this temptation to try to intercede, right? To try to bear on our kids' career choices. But it's really not good because they have to live their lives, not ours. And also, we can be very out of touch with what's going on in the job market right now because things have really changed. So the reason I say to look to your friends instead is that when we're in college or in the years afterwards, we tend to kind of take on jobs in our social group. I would ask yourself, are you the coach? Are you the psychologist? Are you the party planner? In college, I was everybody's editor, and yet I still was not self-aware enough to understand that I wanted to be a journalist. And the reason I think this is a valuable way to think is that in these friendships, we're a little freer of the suffocating expectations that can come either from school or being with your family. Like often with your parents, there's, these currents of obligation and guilt and expectation that flow within families.
Hmm.
And in our friendships, we're freer of that. We can sometimes see ourselves a little bit more clearly.
I should have said, by the way, that that's chapter 4 of your book where you have this list. I mistakenly said chapter 1. But two more from the list are consult your demons and relax about coherence. What does relax about coherence mean? Isn't that almost the opposite of what most career counselors would tell you, which is to build a clear, legible narrative about who you might be professionally?
I think that advice is overstated. I mean, Brian, God bless you for knowing you wanted to be in radio when you were, 7 years old or whatever it was. But those people are the exceptions, right? Most of us are confused and curious when you're young. And it's really important to work through those feelings, to try a lot of things, in part because of the insecurity of this environment. I am seeing too many young people who are forcing a kind of false coherence on their resumes that isn't really there. And when you try to make something coherent that's not, you actually introduce a kind of distortion. So, what I would say to young people is try to have some faith that other people are going to accept your contradictions, that they'll understand them,
Hmm.
and that you'll be able to work them through.
And why consult your demons rather than exercise your demons?
Because problems are opportunities. Because, I really looked around both all the reporting I've done over the decades and my own life, and I said to myself, who is both successful and happy in their careers? Because we want both. We want success and we want happiness. And some of the people, I think, with the very best careers are people who used their careers to address some giant problem, often one they had experienced in a really painful way as a child. And especially with so much wrong in the world today, I want to say to young people that your career can be a great and beautiful and meaningful chance to address one of those problems. Problems are also opportunities, and it's okay to be really successful at it. One of the people I write about in the book, Dr. Matthew Siegel, is a psychiatrist who's a specialist with kids in severe autism. That is a need that he identified early in his career. He has been able to help tons of people. It's also made him very successful, and that's great. We want the people who do good and necessary things to be rewarded.
Jodi Kantor is with us, a follow up to her initial appearance, which some of you told us was just too short, on her book, How to Start Discovering Your Life's Work. And Ruff in Melville, you're on WNYC. Hi, Ruff.
Yes, hi. Thanks for taking my call. Just wanted to point out, I tell young people all the time, think oppositely what you don't want to do in a career. I was in a career out of college, did not like every minute of every day. Had no client contact, no upward mobility, very low salary. Turn the table. I've been a wealth advisor for 40 years, client contact, love every minute of every day.
Thank you very much. You want to riff on that? Riff on Ruff? Ruff from Melville?
I think he has really great advice because the measure of a career in so many ways is not like the existential question of, what did you do with your life? It's really how did you feel hour to hour about your work? If, pop quiz, if we drop in on you at 10:30 a.m. on a random Thursday morning, do you feel connected to the tasks before you? You won't always because work is work and, not every work action involves joy. But like clearly in what Ruff is saying, we can sit here and picture he finds his conversations with his clients very meaningful. He finds being able to help them very meaningful. He enjoys those relationships. And so what I would say to young people is really notice yourself. And as you go about either early jobs or your extracurricular activities or your classes, keep a little list on your phone or in a notebook. Which tasks do you feel really engaged by, and which just make you feel dead inside?
Listener writes, what I hear from new graduates is the problem of dealing with student debt. This is a
Yeah.
huge factor in career decisions, alas, writes that listener. How do you deal with that in the book? If you do.
In two ways. So first of all, it's like obviously really hard to give money advice to a broad spectrum of people, and you never really know what people are coping with. But for student debt, I would say two things. Even as you seek early jobs in which you're earning, because you obviously have to repay that debt, if you have a choice and if you have the chance, I want to make sure that you're also choosing jobs in which you're learning, because your 20s are a vital period of investment in yourself. And part of the real measure of a first job is it building the foundation for the rest of your career? So I would say, with all respect to the financial pressures, which like really given the price of things, a huge spectrum of people are feeling right now, are you also learning in that first job? And then the other thing I would say is you deserve to be happy, even if you have student debt. Like, let's keep our aspirations high, even if the world is a tough place. I'm worried about a situation in which we look at wealthy kids and say, you are allowed to pursue fulfillment. And then we look at the graduates who have student debts and we say, oh, for you, it's all obligation and all duty. That doesn't feel right.
Here is Kathy in Westport, who says she's an executive recruiter. Kathy, you're at WNYC with Jodi Kantor. Hi.
Hi, I just want to say, Jodi, thank you for making some statements that really resonated with me. I have seen people throughout their careers take the direct route through banking or consulting or some sort of pre-organized path. And the people who I know who are most successful and happy together did not do that. They found their way. They tried some different things. And one of my clients actually is the CEO of a company. She calls herself a mutt, which she certainly is not. But she's patched together just an amazing career that led to being a CEO of a fast-growing company. And the only other thing I mean, you find your way if you let yourself.
Well, there's a big obstacle now that we have to mention. As you know, I love everything you said. I'm on your team. The obstacle now is that AI is screening a lot of resumes and cover letters and even doing initial interviews. I'm talking to tons of kids who are saying, Jodi, I applied for 150 jobs, and not only did I not get a bite, but I didn't meet anybody in the process. And so like these AI programs are very homogenizing because they're looking for particular words and they are rewarding that kind of perfect resume. And then when you meet with people in real life, it's a totally different dynamic, right? Where they respond to stories, they often respond to the quirk in somebody's resume. So for people with, like, let's call them our beloved, less coherent people, I would say that those people really have to network in person because there is a danger that technology is going to miss them.
Thank you for your call, Kathy. And so as we run out of time, Jodi, closing question building on that. Your book strikes me. How do I ask this question? There's a lot of eternal good advice in here, right? Eternal personal psychology, spiritual inner game advice about discovering your life's work. But with AI and everything else, how different do you think this book came out compared to if you had written it a generation or two ago?
Oh, well, I wrote it specifically to the moment. Like, as you know, the book came out of a question that Columbia students asked me in the middle of the chaos at Columbia. They asked me to give the undergraduate commencement address. And the students hit me with one of the hardest questions I've ever heard, which is, in this crazy environment, how are we supposed to find and start our life's work? And the question just totally gripped me because of all the employment coverage I've done over the years, the fact that I have a 20-year-old kid. And they were talking about AI and the fear for sure. But I think with AI, part of the reason the book, like, I'm glad you found the advice time tested, because I do think we don't know exactly what is going to happen with AI in the workplace. All of these prognosticators who, are either saying that young people are going to be unnecessary or that all of us are going to be unnecessary. I think they're moving a little bit too fast. The story of technology is a story of twists and unintended consequences. And the goal right now is to find the most durable wisdom that will give us all the best shot of realizing some ambitions and dreams. I mean, the worst thing you can do in the face of AI and in the face of all this negative news is to give up, because then you're just putting satisfaction further out of reach. And also, Brian, we should end this on a news note, true to both of our roots. Believe it or not, this spring, as everybody's talking about these doom and gloom stories, the hiring outlook for recent graduates actually improved a little bit.
Why?
So basically, economists have been very worried about the percentage of unemployed people and people who are unemployed long term who have college degrees. That percentage is supposed to be very small, right? We all believe that if you get a college degree, you're going to get a job. In the last year or so, the number climbed to historic levels. That was really scary, right? It's like that is not supposed to happen. But in the last couple of months, it dropped again. So it's still something to keep an eye on. Another huge problem is underemployment among the young. We're seeing a lot of great kids coming out of college who are getting jobs, but like I have a colleague whose daughter has a degree from Rutgers. She's a great kid, works really hard. The best job she could get is as a receptionist. It doesn't really do justice to her college degree. We would call her a member of the unemployed. But my bigger point is that I think the right response to this moment is to craft a plan that will still give your dreams and ambitions a fighting chance. And then I think there has to be an answer from those of us who are older and more established, which is we need to recommit to mentorship. Finding a job has become so lonely because it's largely digital now. And if you haven't, I would challenge anyone who listens to this show to say, if you haven't spoken recently to somebody who's looked for a job, it's really worth doing. Hear about the giant digital portals. Hear about these ghost listings where you can't even tell if the job listing is still current or not. Talk to somebody who's done an AI interview, because what you see is that the human interactions are becoming less. And probably the biggest thing I'm worried about with the AI picture is that the workplace is based on relationships, and we're putting technology in charge of some of these relationships without really knowing what is going to happen. And so I would say for you, for me, for everybody like us, Brian, we just need to recommit to really holding out a hand to young people, because listen, starting has always been hard. It's a difficult life stage. It often involves struggle, but this era is making it harder, and we need to bring young people all the help we can.
Jodi Kantor, her book is How to Start Discovering Your Life's Work. I said this was a follow-up segment because people said it was too short the last time you were on. I'm really glad we did this. I could see from the texts that are coming in and stuff that people found this really valuable. So, Jodi, thank you.
Such a pleasure, Brian.
WNYC's journalism and storytelling is heard by millions of passionate listeners. Sponsors of our programming gain our listeners' attention and their respect. Learn about how your organization can support WNYC and WNYC Studios at sponsorship.wnyc.org.